you know what old Jack Burton always says at a time like this?
Come on, then. I'll bite your legs off.
I can take it.
Great power comes great responsibility.
We have a hope.
Get to the chopper! And they There's the flesh wound. I am the father.
I want to talk to somebody in charge. You are not fooling anybody when you say that what happened was a natural disaster. You're lying. It was not an earthquake. It wasn't a typhoon. Because what's really happening is that you're hiding something out there. And it is going to send us back to the Stone Age. God help us all.
In 1954, we awakened something.
Well, there's nuclear tests in the Pacific. Not tests.
They were trying to kill it.
You have no idea what's coming.
Can you kill it?
The arrogance of man is thinking nature is in our control. And not the other way around.
And welcome back to the 63rd episode of the Monster Movie Stompdown. Of course, you got your host, Sludge, here. My co-host across from me
is Mark.
Our brother from Texas.
Slowpoke in Texas over here, Ruben.
That's right. We're always joking before the show of, well, usually it's Mark who gets the blame of running behind to record. You know, we try to record these at a certain time. We'll say, hey, 9 o'clock tonight, and it's usually, 10, 11. It's never on time. We never start on time. And tonight, maybe the first night, we were able to blame it on Ruben. Ruben was the first delay. But hey, you know what? It was the internet. It's your internet. It's we won't blame you directly.
Well, how do you blame me then? Mine's called a job. I don't want to.
Oh, no, that's not valid. That's not valid, man. That's not valid. Yeah, that's not valid at all.
I worked that job, and man, I was out of there by, half an hour after close.
Okay, what time's close? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, all I know is when Sludge was doing it, we started on time. That's right. All I know.
Okay, but here's the difference. We close at 10 o'clock. Sludge would stop delivering at like 9.
That is not true.
I deliver all the way up to 10 o'clock.
Not true. 10 minutes till close, though? Yeah, you're coming to pick your pizza up.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what? 10 minutes till close, we never ever once got an order where they didn't come pick their food up. No one ever got their food turned away, but you weren't getting it delivered at 10
You weren't getting it delivered.
Yeah, sorry. We got to you.
And truthfully, down here, I mean, once it's like 30 minutes before closing, they won't deliver. I've never called a place where they would deliver.
Yeah, it's just rude.
It was like, nope, we're done. We're done. The delivery driver's getting off at 11 or whatever time it is.
Yeah. And in this area, man, you got people that'll call Mark's store. They close at 10 o'clock. They'll close at 9:50, or they'll call it 9:58. Yeah, we have a place like that. $10 order and have it delivered. It's like, come on, dude, have some courtesy.
Yeah.
Now there was one girl though, I'm trying to remember what her name was. I want to say her name. It was Brittany something. She orders pretty regular down there, but if it was 15 minutes till, she wouldn't call. She called one night and she was like, I didn't realize what time it was. It was like 10 minutes before close. She's like, don't worry, I'll go get Taco Bell or something. I was like, no, you know what? You are always like this. You know, we close at 10. If it's too late, you won't order. We don't get many good customers like you. Your food's on the house. I paid for your food. And so she ordered and she came, picked it up, and she made it she was there 10:02, 2 minutes after close. I didn't care. But I mean, I paid for her food. And I was like, you're not paying it. You're awesome.
Yeah.
And just to put a note out there, here at the Stompdown, we take all of our customers, even where we work at, as great people.
We do.
And we wouldn't say everybody's terrible, but everybody's good.
Yeah, everybody's awesome. Everybody.
Just had to throw that in there.
So anyway, we're kind of on time tonight ish.
Yeah.
So
we're doing good.
But we're pretty stoked, man. We got a great movie tonight. We got the beginning of the legendary Monsterverse with the 2014 Godzilla film. We're gonna do back-to-back episodes this month because Mark just had his surgery. He looks like he has a gunshot wound to the chest, but doing pretty good.
Yep, feeling good.
We were there all day. I took the day off. It was last Wednesday, and thank you to everybody on Facebook. I put posts up about him going into surgery, and we had all the comments and the prayers and stuff on my personal page and the podcast page. So thank you all so much. That meant a ton. To me, Mark probably didn't care.
I did care. Well, the medication they had me on, I was trying to care. It just wouldn't let me.
He didn't care at all. But surgery went good, and he went back to work, Saturday?
Yeah, Saturday. Yep.
So
wow.
Now he can't lift anything. It's going to be light duty, so that means all he can do is boss people around, which is pretty much what he does anyway. So
thank you.
I'll call him at night, and he's like, man, I'm trying to work. I'm like, you don't work.
Yeah.
all you do is yell at people. But 30 plus years in the workforce, you deserve to be at that point where you just bark orders. So
the bad part is I can't drive yet, so I'm still.
I had to go pick him up for this episode. I got to chauffeur him around.
So,
but that's okay. So so we got Godzilla tonight, and we got Wolfman next week for you guys. And then we've got some cool episodes coming up in August and September. We'll talk about those at the end of the episode. But man, let's jump into it because we're hot off the tail of Godzilla vs. Kong, and we're entering into the Monsterverse that started with the 2014 Godzilla film. And Mark brought it up, and I'll bring it up. We'll talk about too before we started recording. That this originally started as an IMAX short film. And Mark was asking me about it, and very much so, actually, before Legendary got the full rights, or bought the rights to make this movie, Yoshimitsu Banno, who, for those Godzilla fans, would know as the director of Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster. He had gotten approval from Toho to do an American co-production Godzilla film, and he wanted to do it in IMAX 3D. And he wanted to do another Godzilla versus, Hedorah type movie, an ecological terror type deal. So yes, it did originally start as an IMAX short film was the plan. But Legendary came in, Thomas Toland then bought the rights to do a full feature-length film. And that's why, of course, you see in the credits, one of the executive producers for the film was Yoshimitsu Banno on this one, because he did work. Because he was kind of what helped make this happen. So major thanks to Mr. Banno for that one. But this one, man, they knocked it out of the park with this film. Not only did they get a director whose dream and the whole reason he started doing movies was because he wanted to do a Godzilla film, and it all started with 1962 King Kong vs. Godzilla movie, and that's none other than Gareth Edwards, who did the amazing movie Monsters. If nobody's seen that, we'll probably need to review that at some point because that movie is absolutely epic. On a very small budget, he did all the special effects himself, as well as wrote and directed that film. But then, of course, he's also known for the Star Wars movie Rogue One, which is absolutely epic, one of the best Star Wars films there is. But this was his take and tackle on Godzilla, and he did a great job at it. The screenplay was, of course, by a guy named Max Bornstein. He's worked on pretty much most of the Legendary film, the Monsterverse. He's worked on pretty much every one of them. Him and David Callahan have worked on the screenplay and the story for it. Of course, they had a big cast in this one. Bryan Cranston's in this. Aaron Taylor Johnson's in this. The awesome Ken Watanabe's in this. You got the Scarlet Witch. Elizabeth Olsen's in here as well. David Strathairn's in it. There was a cameo that was removed from the American release, but if I'm not mistaken, Ruben, you can clarify this. That was kept in the Japanese theatrical release of just had a brain fart again. We were doing this before the episode. Takarada, Akira Takarada,
Yes.
who was in the original one, and he's been in every one. I did that earlier. I'm like, what? I know this guy. This is like pivotal. But Akira Takarada did have a cameo in the movie, which was removed in the theatrical release, at least here stateside. But Ruben, you were saying you verified that it was Japanese one.
Yeah, it is. He didn't appear in the non-Japanese, but he appeared in the Japanese release. Is what it says here in the little write-up that I saw.
See, and I wish they would have left it in, added that as a bonus feature. You know what I mean? On one of the.
I know that would have been cool, but I don't know why they didn't do it. But
yeah, because that was huge for us fans, man. I mean, having Takarada in it anywhere, you know what I mean, would have been just absolutely epic. But of course, Thomas Toll is one of the producers. He's one of the top dogs over at Legendary Pictures. Was a big push for this because Thomas Toll himself is a massive Godzilla fan, along with Gareth Edwards. The movie had a $160 million budget. Now, Mark was talking earlier that total, it was actually almost $300 million when you include the marketing. Because they knocked the marketing out of the park with this film. I think they kind of want a repeat of the 98 type deal as far as marketing. They just went really, really big with it. But the film itself, that $160 million budget, came out May 16th here in the U.S., 2014, and it ended up grossing $525 million at the box office. So this thing was a major success for Legendary, and obviously kickstarted the MonsterVerse, which was followed by, Kong Skull Island next. But I mean, if it wasn't for this movie, we wouldn't be 4 movies deep in a great franchise that's done well over $1 billion at this point. Actually, they were over $1 billion by film 3. So great franchise. Music was done by Alexander Desplat, who's a great guy, but I will be bringing up his musical score when I talk about my opinion on it. But I mean, they kind of went back to the roots on this one. They changed Godzilla up a little bit, at least Gareth did. The movie starts off with a sinkhole, a cave in at a mining facility, and they find a skeleton, Dr. Serizawa, which is a throwback to the original Dr. Serizawa, who's played by Ken Watanabe in this movie, and Ken does a phenomenal job in it.
The arrogance of man is thinking nature is in our control, and not the other way around. Let them fight.
But he's part of a organization called Monarch, who have secretly been studying giant monsters for decades. They actually found Godzilla back in the 50s, and you come to find out through the movie that the nuclear bomb tests were not tests like the original one that created Godzilla, but they were actually trying to kill Godzilla at this point. And Monarch was created to study these giant monsters, these giant creatures. And so Godzilla in this one is a prehistoric, an ancient god, so to speak. They call him in the movie, as all intents and purposes, a god from prehistoric times. Just he's been here for millions of years.
Apex predator, they call him Apex.
Yeah, Apex predator. Yeah. And back at a time when Earth had much more radiation on the surface and on the world period, and that's what he fed on. And as you find out through these movies that we go through for the MonsterVerse, there was a natural order of things, and they ended up calling these giant creatures Titans. That's where Kong comes into play and all the other Titans in the series. And Godzilla was top dog. He was Earth's protector, Earth's way of keeping natural order, so to speak. But Dr. Serizawa, they're here at this dig. They find the skeleton of another Godzilla, and in it they find 2 spores. One actually was open, the other one dormant. And cuts over to the next scene where we're introduced to Bryan Cranston's character, and he works at the Janjira nuclear plant, and they've been getting these weird readings, almost seismic readings, and all of a sudden the plant is attacked by something, causes the reactor to break. He loses his wife in the process, but him and his son Ford manage to survive, and then it shoots 15 years in the present day. And you find Ford, his son, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, gets back from the military. He's finally off deployment, home maybe an hour to get a phone call that his father, Bryan Cranston's character, has been arrested for sneaking back into quarantine zone, this area of Janjira. He has snuck back in. So he goes to Japan to get his father out, try and talk him into coming back home. But his father tells him, no, I have to go back. I have to get my original tapes from the house inside the quarantine zone, because the same acoustic readings I was getting 15 years ago at the accident that killed his mother, or his wife, Ford's mother, is happening again. Something's going on. He knows they're covering up something. So Ford goes with him, and they go into the quarantine zone, find his tapes. They get captured again, but get taken straight to the facility at Janjira. And they, through the process, realize there's no radiation. They've been lying and hiding something the entire time. They get to the facility to find out that what's caused it is a monster, what they end up calling a MUTO, a massive unidentified terrestrial organism. Not the most original name, but it works for these creatures. And a male MUTO has drained all of the radiation from the nuclear reactors and is now in a cocoon, gets birthed out of the cocoon and takes off flying. In the process, a lot of people die. Facility gets destroyed. Ford survives. His dad barely survives, only to unfortunately end up Bryan Cranston dying through the movie. And so Ford teams up with the military to try and get back and follow this creature and stop this creature with a nuclear weapon, while Dr. Serizawa tries to tell them, no, Godzilla's the key. He's coming. He will restore balance. And then, of course, Godzilla does show up, and you get your first fight, albeit brief, between the male MUTO and Godzilla in Hawaii. And then it goes from Hawaii to San Francisco, where it culminates, because we find out that there was another frequency, a response call to the male MUTO, and that was the female MUTO, the other dormant spore was stored in Yucca Mountain, our nuclear waste facility in Nevada, breaks out. Once it gets a response, it starts taking off towards San Francisco, destroys Las Vegas almost completely. And that's when we had the big climax of the film, where the Army is trying to use a nuclear bomb to lure all three of the monsters, both MUTOs and Godzilla, offshore, let it detonate and kill them all, is the plan. But of course, the MUTOs, their plan is time to make babies. They got the female's pregnant, and they're going to use the nuclear, because they feed on radiation, the nuclear warhead to feed the babies, and everything tends to go south for the Army. Godzilla shows up, and it's just monster fights like we have never seen on film before. Yeah, because most of this movie is done from the human perspective, which is super cool, super unique. Again, never been done before in a Godzilla film. And Godzilla goes toe-to-toe with these MUTOs, and it's an epic battle, super great battle. He ends up killing both of them. Of course, takes down the female, the last one at the end, with what is probably the most epic Godzilla victory of all time.
Oh, yes.
Just grabs her by the head, blows the radioactive breath right down her throat, separating her head from her body. And that is just the king of monsters move right there. Yeah. Then, of course, Godzilla goes off, at the end. You see all the survivors, because San Francisco is just trashed. At this point, Godzilla's kind of knocked out there in San Francisco. He wakes up, and all the film crews, and you see in all the scenes, or all the TV cameras and news stations saying Godzilla, savior of mankind, or king of the monsters, city savior. And you see him walk off and get back in the ocean, and boom. It's a pretty epic ending for this film. But a good standard, origin story for Godzilla, kind of a revamp of him being created, by nuclear radiation. He's always been here, and he feeds on nuclear radiation. But then also mixing a versus, instead of going back and just doing, because we got it in 84, the Godzilla 1984 movie where it's just Godzilla, but a reboot. We had the horrible atrocity that was 1998. Again, a reboot with just him. So Gareth did a great job of making sure we got our reboot about Godzilla, but we also got the monsters that he got to fight. Right. And the designs on these things were extremely unique. and they did a great job at the movie, but the movie knocked it out of the ballpark. $525 million in the box office worldwide. It was number one for like 2 weeks in a row here in the U.S. Did huge in Japan, and it kickstarted the MonsterVerse, which has now spanned 4 films and 4 actual graphic novels as well. And then from that, we're getting a Netflix animated series is coming down the line from about Monarch. So we'll get, it continues there. But we also know for a fact that they are coming back for another MonsterVerse film. Actually talking to Adam Wingard, who did Godzilla vs. Kong, about him possibly coming in and doing the next film. Now, where do we stand as far as Godzilla? That's to be seen, because we know we got the rights, to Kong for him to carry on, but they have to renegotiate a contract and deal for Godzilla to continue him down the MonsterVerse with Toho. But we do know, and it's been all over the news of lately, Godzilla vs. Kong is what saved the movies because the COVID. That's what brought people back to movies was Godzilla vs. Kong, rightfully so. The king of the monsters, the king of the apes. There we go. They were the king of the movies at that point. So, but let's jump into it, man. Things we liked and didn't like about the movie. Mark, it's been a minute since you've gone first.
All right.
Let's you do it.
Man, great movie. Great movie. I think, probably the biggest thing that I noticed was obviously with Toho, we've had men in Godzilla suits. And so that's what we've dealt with for year after year, movie after movie, and which has been good. But now, the 98 was a flop. Well, for me, it was a flop.
It was a major flop.
But I think overall, Godzilla, here was a new Godzilla coming out, and I think fans, the world just accepted him. I mean, he's just bad. Yeah. And so it was exciting to see that. It was exciting to get a fresh look, Godzilla, in this, new, it's a MonsterVerse, Legendary's taken over, all this stuff. And so I thought, man, the movie is just, for a long time, this is the best Godzilla movie ever. That's coming from me. That's my number one. It's going to be my number one forever. Well, that remains to be seen. We got some more to talk about on that. So, but I think superior movie when it came out. The acting I thought was mediocre. Bryan Cranston would have loved to have him in that movie longer. I thought he was,
he stole the show.
He died too quick. I thought that could have went on. They could have made that character go on a little bit longer, even if they didn't want him to do the whole film. Be alive through the whole film. But I thought it was that was the part was a little negative. The fight scenes are just phenomenal, man. They are just going at it, just like you said on that. That the way to end it when he killed that female. Just by ripping her mouth open and just blasting her was just, you just wanted to stand up and just scream, because it was so good. But I think overall, if I have a negative, other than the acting could have been, not so much the acting as much as maybe the material they were working with. They could have, worked a little bit more, forward. You got 3 monsters attacking the world, and he really was calm through the whole thing. He never did
lost
get
his
uptight,
cool, never freaked out.
Yeah, now his wife, on the other hand, she's losing her mind. And, she's going crazy. Yeah. But I thought, some of that could have been done a little bit better, maybe in a different way. But I did also read that he talked with Edwards for 6 hours about the character and how he wanted him to portray that character. So, I felt like the drama part could have been a little bit more. The fight scenes, a little dark, but I think in the most part, I think the fight scenes were great. Especially with the special effects and everything. I mean, it changed the direction that Godzilla was going.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, as far as having, you know, somebody in a suit compared to the computer graphics and that kind of stuff, I thought was just unbelievable, great. So I mean, it's not a whole bunch of negatives, but like I said, there, you know, when it came out, it's like, yeah, this is going to be number one for quite some time in my Godzilla rankings, and it did. But then more movies came out and things changed and that kind of stuff. So overall, thumbs up. I won't give my rating and stomps until towards the end. Great movie, absolutely great movie.
Ruben, what about you, man? What do you got for it?
Well, you know, this movie, it was a, to me,
wait, sorry. I told you, I just forgot because we were talking about the special effects. I wanted to add, we did technically have a man in the suit on this. Because it was actually a motion capture suit. TJ Storm played Godzilla in actually the Monsterverse. So yeah, he actually is. It's all CGI and motion capture. But I mean, so not traditional. But we did have a little bit of a man in the suit.
Motion capture. I wouldn't call that a man in a suit. Yeah, I wouldn't call that a man in a suit. But motion capture.
Yep.
Yeah.
But sorry, go ahead, Ruben.
All right. Well, this movie actually to me was. I think after, you know, what Toho had put out and what America put out in '98, I think this was a turning point for Godzilla, because this was done by a director who, I mean, this was done with somebody who knew Godzilla and was confident enough to do it in a way that would represent Godzilla the way he's supposed to be and not try to tinker with it too much.
Right.
Which I thought was great. I'm like, you know what? He's not trying to reinvent the wheel. He's going to make his movie, and he made a good movie, you know, and sometimes these people say, well, you know what, I'm going to, you know, which was happened with '98. I'm going to reinvent the whole thing because, you know, I'm King Kong. I'm going to beat on my chest and I'm going to do what I want, kind of deal. And what Edwards did is he said, you know, nope, I'm going to make a Godzilla movie, and I'm going to make it true to the original Godzilla, 54, Showa, Heisei, all the way through. So I really like that. I really like the way he did it. I like the design. Godzilla's design is perfect. Some people think he's a little chubby. I think he's all right, you know? Yeah. So, I mean, I really like that.
That was the longest part of the pre-production was his design. Because Gareth would make a black and white silhouette, and that's what they used to make adjustments. And until the silhouette at every angle looked like Godzilla, they kept modifying it, and it was to the point when you looked at the silhouette, and no matter what angle you saw the silhouette, it said Godzilla. That's when he's like, "This is it." This is what he looks
no matter
like.
what angle you're looking at, you say, "Hey, that's Godzilla." Yep. You know, that's no doubt about it. That's Godzilla. You know, it's like, you know, when you hear a singer, you hear Freddie Mercury sing. That's Freddie Mercury.
Yep.
You know instantly that's him. The same thing. The way they did this was perfect. Godzilla was a perfect design. I liked the Mutos. They were great. They were a great creature design on those creatures.
Very fresh. I felt like.
Yeah, it was a brand new, fresh take. Not corny at all for me, at least in my opinion. Not corny at all. I thought it were really good. The fact that one could fly and you know, so that took me back to Godzilla's battles with Rodan,
right, or
Radon, or whatever you want to call him.
Yeah.
He's Rodan to me. He'll always be Rodan to me.
Definitely.
So I really like that. The storyline I thought was solid. Like you, I wish Bryan Cranston would have hung around. It would have been neat for him to have survived that and able to contribute to the Muto's defeat.
Right.
You know, and somehow, in some way, even injured from a hospital bed, or, you know, collaborating, you know, with Saragawa. There, could get that. I almost didn't get that out. To actually be, that would have been a nicer storyline for me than what we got. I thought soundtrack was good. I didn't think the acting was too bad. It wasn't compared to others. I mean, well, you want to compare it to Final Wars, or something like that. True. The actor's better there, it's just not there. This acting was up to par. I thought it was neat that there's a lot of backstory for this, and that's how they came up with the graphic novels. As a matter of fact, that first skeleton they find, where they're down in that tunnel in the Philippines.
Yep.
And she says, "Is this him?" And he goes, "No, this is much older," and ends up being a creature named Dagon. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Dagon.
Yep.
Which is actually a species of Godzilla, but way older and way bigger.
Yep.
You know, so I thought that was cool because they set all this up, and I'm like, man, now they got an opening for the graphic novels. Now they got all this. You know, it seems that this was so well thought out because they did this movie, and it's like you can see it flowing to Skull Island, and you could see it flowing to King of the Monsters. It was just one continuous flow.
Oh yeah, and
even though Skull Island was backwards in time, but they gave us Monarch in this film.
Yep.
You know, and then it's okay with it. Yeah.
Even the graphic novels, I mean, like they tie in between these films.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
so this intricate story and background. I mean, yeah, I'm with you 100% on that.
Yeah, so I thought the way they did the story was perfect because there's no, I mean, there might be, I just didn't catch them. There might be some plot holes here and there, but as far as I'm concerned, it was a pretty smooth flow of things. I remember when this movie first came out, one of the major complaints was, there's not enough Godzilla screen time. I thought, sure, I would have liked to see more Godzilla, but more than likely, one of my, like Mark, my deal is not so much we didn't get enough Godzilla, is when we got Godzilla, it was always night. It was always dark, except when he got up in the morning, after he got up after his nap, which is another one of my negatives. I don't like that he took a nap. I don't like that at all. At the end, Godzilla does not tire. Godzilla's king of the monsters. Either that or go rest underwater where nobody sees you, man.
That's bad for your reputation doing that.
If you're at work, you don't take a nap in front of the boss. Right. You go somewhere and hide behind somewhere in a closet somewhere or something to take a nap. So, and really, those are the only two negatives. I thought it was a little dark, but at the same time, those battles at night were so epic that I think it lent itself to make the battle even more epic, because you had the explosions which lit up the sky, right. And you had the background with the sky, and when they're parachuting down and it's dark, and I'm like,
that Halo cool jump scene,
that Halo jump, I'm like, man, that's awesome. I'm like, so even though I'm critiquing it as a negative, really, the overall scheme of things, it was actually a pretty good move to do that at night. It also lends to for us not to be so scrutinize it so much, because it's dark, so they could get away with certain things that maybe they couldn't get away with during daylight. I think it made it more believable, if that makes any sense for a Godzilla movie, but it made it a little bit more believable with the battles. All in all, I didn't find very much wrong with this movie, other than maybe I'd like to I'll give you an example. Like, I would remember when they're evacuating and she's going into the subway with a bunch of his wife's going into the subway, and they're closing the doors, and just as they're closing the doors, Godzilla and one of the male Muto
collide,
collide, and then they close the door, and then that's it. You don't see anymore. Yeah, I would have liked that scene. I would have liked to have seen that battle again. I would have liked to seen that. It's not a huge negative, but still, I'm like, that left me wanting more, which I guess, when it came down to the epic final battle, it left me hungry for that. And then when I got it, I was very satisfied at the end. So, all in all, I mean, I loved every bit of this. I would rank, although I just pulled up my rankings for my top 5 Godzilla movies when we did that years ago now.
Oh yeah.
And it was not in my top 5, but it was my honorary mention. So, but there's just so many good Godzilla movies, out there. And just to think about it, didn't make my top 5. I'm like, man, it didn't even make but it made Mark's top 5.
Oh yeah.
So it made Mark's top 5, because I have it written down. I have the record here when we did it, so I could remember it, because I'm getting old. I start forgetting, Go ahead, Mark.
I don't even think I had, at that time we did those rankings, I don't think I had it number 1, did I?
Oh, I have you down for 2014.
Yeah. Okay. I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew when it came out, I was all in.
Yeah.
All in.
I have you down for 20, and I'll give you one guess what Chase's number 1 was.
1984.
Yeah.
Well, yes,
you
sir.
got it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, Actually 85.
85.
Favorite's 85. He prefers the 85 over the 84. They're both. I know they're the same movie, but when he prefers the American release. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yes,
that is correct.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
Dr. Pepper, crap and all, still.
Yeah, that's right. And so I pulled that when you said that was your, and sure enough, that's what you ranked as number one. And you know what? Arguably, you could argue that. And you might be able to win depending on who you're arguing with. Or debating, I should say, not arguing. Debating with.
I don't
know
who
you're debating with. Yeah. Depending on who you're debating with, if it's 2014 and you're debating Ben Shapiro and he likes 54, I'm sorry, you're just gonna lose.
Yeah.
But
and you're probably right there.
Yeah. But man. All in all, this movie's satisfying is the word I would use for this movie.
Very much so.
And little that we know that we're even gonna get more satisfaction later on down this storyline, but this was great. And also seeing it with RJ, this is the first time. We saw it multiple times in the theater. And there's some, what? Now that I think about it, there's so many epic parts of this movie. But you were talking about that final kill, which is awesome.
Oh yeah.
But that Godzilla power up. When you first see him use,
the tail lights up, goes up the
man,
back.
You hear it, and you watch it in IMAX, and you watch it in a movie theater, and you hear that whole theater starts to rumble from that power up, and then he just shoots that ray. Yeah. Oh man, there's just something just great.
Everybody in the theater when we went, they were screaming. The entire audience was screaming.
And it was just, we saw that movie I don't know how many times, and we even saw it. We used to have a theater here. It was called we used to call it the Dollar Theater. I can't even remember. It was $1 to see a movie, and but it was the old-fashioned theater. It wasn't the stadium seating. It wasn't any of that. So, and we even went to see it there when it was already, I think, released on DVD or Blu-ray, and we went to see it for $1. Yeah, let's go see the theater for $1.
Oh yeah.
So
totally
we went, and even there. With the antiquated sound system that you don't get, you don't have that sounds that you have in some of these bigger theaters now. It was still awesome. It was just, man, and that, I tell you, that power up, man, that just got me pumped up. And
that's
like
one
said,
of the
people
best
screaming. Yeah.
Radioactive breath releases ever in the history of Godzilla.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's so funny. You see it coming and there's nothing you can do about it. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So all in all, man, that's a very satisfying movie. Highly recommended. I'm going to hand it over to Sludge.
Man, a lot of good stuff. You guys have pretty much nailed on the head of all the good stuff. The special effects were phenomenal. Godzilla's design is absolutely awesome. I didn't even have that big of an issue with the elephant feet, that a lot of people seem to have a take with.
Yeah.
Because, I didn't see it 95% of the time anyways, But this movie knocked out of the park. Gareth knew, and you hit on a little bit there, Ruben, the moments that like his first appearance at the airport could go down as the greatest first appearance of Godzilla in any film. The Muto's there, the explosion of the helicopter crashing, hitting the plane, and then that foot coming down in front of those big, huge bay windows at the airport, and everyone's screaming, but when that foot lands, everyone shuts up. It's like, oh. And then you get that that epic, the ground up, from the feet up to the face shot, which is what I love so much about 85, is because that's what you get in the first reveal. I love that for Godzilla.
Yeah.
And then you get that first roar. Dude, that was just... it was epic. And then it ended. And you're like, what the crap, man? How could you do this? But he did that throughout the movie. But each time he did that, the next time he would do it again, he would give you a little bit more, then a little bit more, then a little bit more, until that final fight and payoff was just amazing when he killed the male Muto by just, eyeballing him, and he timed it right, waiting for him to come through, flying at him, then spun around with that tail and drilled him in that, took him out, man.
I think he gave us the equivalent of a 7-course meal. He started off with a little salad, and then he gave us a little bit of soup, and then he gave us, or appetizer, and then man, it's just until you finally got that rich dessert at the end.
Oh,
it
yeah.
was really cool.
And I think, especially in that shot with the tail where he kills, through the whole movie, Godzilla's going at a certain pace, and then right there he turns it up a notch.
Oh, he did, because he moved quick.
He whipped that tail around.
All of a sudden, those elephant feet moved. All of a sudden, them elephant feet moved. Yeah,
I was like, I was shocked when I saw it. I remember at the movie theater, I was like, oh Lord, did he just whip that around or what?
Oh man,
it was great.
It was, and the shots, the shots you see of Godzilla are just every shot of Godzilla is a 10. Or an 11, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's there's no mediocre shots. There's no 5s. It's all top notch. And the point of view scaling on everything was amazing. You know what I mean? When you see the Muto before the subway scene that you were talking about, Ruben, when he's flying through the city and goes sideways by the building, you're in the office building. And you're seeing this thing come down from an actual human perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, these shots like that are just epic in this movie, and to me, and of course, we've talked about this before in previous Godzilla films, I hate the overuse of the monster rays. You know what I mean? Like, I prefer the more the fight action. You could say technically 3 in this film, even though I think it's 2. I mean, because when he the first time he shoots the Muto, he takes a pause and then does it again, but it's kind of right there. So I mean, that could be
I call it that.
Yeah. So I mean, if you want to say 3, it's 3. You know what I mean? Like, it's all physical monster fighting, and I love it because
until you get to the end.
I mean, and that's, to me, that's what it should be. You know what I mean? Like, that should be the Thanos snap, you know what I mean, or the Thor calling Mjolnir, or Captain America holding it. You know what I mean? It's that moment where it's like, you don't need it over and over and over and over and over again. You know what I mean? It's supposed to be that epic that when it happens, you don't ever forget it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, I mean, that first shot was amazing. I mean, going from the bottom of the tip of the tail all the way up his back, and then him just releasing it, was epic. And then the final kill shot was the greatest kill shot of all time. You know what I mean? So, I mean, Gareth knew what he was doing, and almost knew what he was doing. I do have one issue with the movie. But as far as the storyline, I thought was great. I love that they blended so much of Godzilla himself from the Showa or the Heisei. I mean, he was it was, you had the radiation origin, you know what I mean, but you also had that protector origin too. I mean, so we got the best of both Godzillas from the Showa era, I felt like. So I thought that was really, really, really cool. The Muto's great design. I love them. They were very super unique. Like you said, Ruben, I like that one had, the male had wings and was smaller than the female, and the female didn't have wings. You know what I mean? So the differentiation between the two of the species was great. Giving us little tidbits here of, Dagon's skeleton is what they found, Then, of course, they add more to it as it goes with the graphic novels. They just went really in depth with this. And then the Easter eggs that we've yet to mention are absolutely through the roof. You know what I mean? You've got when they go back to actually, I noticed it today too, and I didn't think about it till today because I've never seen this one till today. I thought that the first Mothra Easter egg was the aquarium in his house when they go back to their house, and it says Ford's Mothra on it. I thought that was the first one. I was wrong. In the classroom sequence, when Janjira is collapsing, when they go to look out, or when they look, there's a shot behind where you see the teacher and she's telling the kids to evacuate whatever. If you look on the back behind her on the board, the board, there's a poster and there's a moth on it, and the moth is designed just like Mothra. And I was like, I never noticed it. So you had that. You had the twin, the Eliases, the Cosmos fairies in Vegas. You've got the Ghidra dragon, head in the where the Mutos are laying the eggs. I mean, he gave the tidbits for the fans, which was cool for the Easter eggs, and I absolutely loved that. No major complaints on this movie at all, other than, and we've all kind of addressed this, the death of Bryan Cranston.
I deserve answers.
Because when this movie was coming out, I mean, there were memes coming out of, Godzilla versus Cranston. I mean, not Godzilla versus the Mutos, because Cranston is, I mean, he is so. The acting's not bad from everybody else. I mean, David Strathairn does a great job. Ken Watanabe as Dr. Serizawa, which, by the way, I should say his first name in the film is Ishiro Serizawa. So that was actually an honor to. Golly, I'm having too many brain farts tonight. Not Tomoyuki Tanaka, Shiro Honda, the director of the original films. Man, I'm off my game. But it was a throwback to him, you know what I mean? So, I mean, you got the name of the original doctor, the original film director for the character. So I thought that was super, super cool. So, I mean, they did a great job. I mean, Elizabeth Olsen, she did a great job. Aaron Taylor Johnson, he's not a bad actor. I mean, he doesn't do the best in this. He's not horrible. I've seen way worse.
Oh, I agree.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
I don't think he is strong enough of a lead to carry the human drama part. That's the problem I had with it, is that killing off Cranston killed the drama section of the movie.
Yeah.
And with
they killed the lead. They killed what should have been the lead.
Yeah.
And with Henry Cavill being offered that.
That's right. Yep.
It would have been something to see.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think Cavill could have done a much better job than Aaron Taylor Johnson in that one. But I mean, I think, if they'd have kept Bryan Cranston alive, I mean, even if they make it back to San Francisco, he gets, he's kind of beat up, but he gets out of the hospital or the Army hospital, whatever. And Ford's like, dude, Dad, I've got to go. We got to get this nuclear bomb here. I've got to help try and stop the monsters. Go get his wife and grandkid, because they make allusion to the beginning how he's like, you got a grandson that's dying to see you, and she's the one's like, bring him home. He's still your family. So if you had that, they're both in San Francisco. Ford's trying to stop the monsters while Bryan Cranston's trying to save the family. You know what I mean? That would have been absolutely epic. I mean, and he could have kept them both alive. But I think that was the major shortcoming, or only shortcoming of the film, was the death of Bryan Cranston. Because there's that scene when they catch them in Janjira, and he's in the little the interrogation
paddy wagon.
Room. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
In the interrogation room, and he gives that speech about his wife died here. He deserves. That was him practicing. For those who don't know, that was him rehearsing the scene, and they filmed it. And that's what he's like, I just want to rehearse it. And that's what came out. And Gareth said, we got it. There's no point. That moment right there, it's just like, that's the greatest acted scene in the film. That's one of the greatest acted scenes ever.
Intense.
Yeah, I concur with that.
Yeah. I'm just like, dude, you were such a good actor. So that was my biggest flaw with the movie. I didn't care about the Godzilla time. I mean, Godzilla's in this movie a little over 9 minutes, actually almost 10 minutes. I hate to break it to you. He's in the movie the original Godzilla movie, he's in it less than he is in this film. You know what I mean? Like,
yes, that is correct.
Yeah, we want more, but I think it was just handled perfectly. And we got more than we had the original Godzilla. And every time we got him was like the greatest payoff. And like a 7-course meal, like Ruben said, it was better each step, And my only other complaint about it, though, would be, Alexander Desplat is a great film scorer. I mean, he's a great at what he does. But I just felt like I never got that Akira Ifukube moment.
The score did not affect the scenes as much as it should.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of the score's great. You know what I mean? There's the moments, when they're going into the cave. I mean, actually, to be honest, I mean, like that score he uses going into the cave at the beginning, and they come on Dagon Skeleton. I used a bit of that score in my re-edit of Godzilla 1985 because I thought it's phenomenal. It did really good there.
Yeah.
And there's moments where the score is really good, but there was never a moment with the score that really just pushed the action or pushed the moment like Akira Ifukube did. Or honestly, like Ben McCreary did in Godzilla King of the Monsters. That's So I mean, it's not a bad soundtrack, but it didn't have those moments where the score has always taken a pretty important role in Godzilla films, that more than most people may realize. So that was my only two issues: killing Bryan Cranston, and then there just wasn't that moment with the score from the Splot that really satisfied me like I wanted it to. But again, top-notch movie. I mean, this put to ease that America can do a Godzilla film after the massacre that was the 98 film.
Yes.
And it spawned the entire MonsterVerse. I mean, I have no complaints. Godzilla's an absolute beast in this movie. Beast in this movie. People are like, "Oh, he's too big. He's Fatzilla." No, man, he's just beast mode. You know. And so I absolutely loved it. I mean, I have no other complaints of this movie. I just praising how good it was. Acting was great. I loved all the characters. I mean, even Ford, even though he got on my nerves a little bit, only because like I didn't think he was a bad character, and I don't think Aaron Taylor Johnson did a bad job in the role. It's just not a good enough character, nor a good enough actor to lead the cast.
Right. But the thing is too, though, like you were saying, Henry Cavill was he offered the part?
Yeah,
or did they just
Henry Cavill,
and he turned it down? I can't see him married to Elizabeth Olsen.
I can, now that we've had the Avengers, because now that I watch it and every time they kiss on the couch, I'm like, dude, you're kissing your sister. You sick man, you. Because of Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver.
Yeah.
After the fact, I can definitely see anybody, other than that. But that
I don't know. I just, when you said that, I'm like, I don't see it. But then again, now I don't see her more. She's Scarlet Witch now.
Right.
Well, yeah, she finally gets the name Scarlet Witch, but yeah, she's a Scarlet Witch now, so it's tough for me to see her with anyone else. So other than Vision now for me.
Oh yeah, it's true. All right, we got anything else on this one?
Well, nope, we're good. Stompdown rating.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that one. Just make sure.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
no,
good.
I'm done, man. I think I said everything I'm supposed to.
Well, hey, it's Stompdown rating time. And we give this one a big, solid 4 across the board from each of us. So
no arguments this time.
We teetered a little higher at points, but based off of previous scores and scores we know, or at least for me, I know I've got coming up with the rest of this MonsterVerse.
Yeah.
Solid 4, man. I mean, this is a great movie that you need to watch.
Definitely.
And this one was hard to score. I mean, it was hard to get stomps because I think I mentioned it in the pre-show that I would have felt guilty giving it something less than a 4 because it's just that good. I didn't want to penalize it for something that we technically have not looked, it hasn't happened yet in our timeline.
It
hasn't happened yet in our timeline. So I'm like, man, I don't want to penalize it for that. So I'm not. That's why I gave it a 4. I just did not think it was fair to it was made in 2014, so it was before the other movies that we're going to discuss come up. But it's still, it holds its own against those two.
Oh, it does.
Then it's going to be a matter of preference. It's going to be a matter of preference. From here on out, it's going to be a matter of preference. Even with Shin Godzilla, it's going to be a matter of preference. Like, I know that one's going to be divisive. Probably.
Oh man, well, we just want to ask Justin.
Yeah,
Justin. That's bottom of Justin's totem pole for
it was hard because I did not want to penalize it for a movie that hasn't happened yet. I guess is the term.
That makes sense.
So
yeah. I mean, if you guys, most people probably have already seen this, but if you've not seen this one, go watch this Godzilla movie. It did a fantastic job of rebooting the franchise or restarting the franchise on this end. Gareth Edwards just did an amazing job. Super, super good. Of course, now next month we'll be continuing on with the Godzilla portions of the film because we've already done Kong Skull Island when we did it, when we did the Kong films. But Godzilla King of the Monsters by Mike Dougherty is going to be next for the for the Legendaries. It's not the next Godzilla film, but we'll be moving on to it soon. And it's a great, great universe to check out. So we'll actually be back here next week because of Mark's surgery. We pushed back to the our 2 episodes at the end of the month here, back to back. We will be back next week with the Wolfman, Lon Chaney Jr. I can't wait for this one. This is one of my favorite of the Universal monsters, and it is so good. It's going to be awesome. And then, of course, next month, we will be back again with the next Godzilla film, which we're going in timeline order. So the next Godzilla film will be Shin Godzilla will be next. We'll take a little break from the MonsterVerse, but we'll hit up to it soon. And then we've got something, we got Shin Godzilla, then we got The Invisible Man. We will finish up the Universal Monsters next month with that one, and because we want to get ready for September, because we got some big surprises for you guys in September. So don't want to reveal anything yet. We'll reveal it when we get a little bit closer, but we're working really, really hard with some good friends of ours for something behind the scenes for an episode for September that's going to, I think, going to knock everybody's socks off. So
yeah,
but all right. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Again, we'll be back right next week with the Wolfman. Next month, we got Shin Godzilla and Invisible Man coming up to finish up the Universal Monsters. And I'm pretty pumped. I cannot wait. Super stoked. So this is Sludge.
And Mark.
And you got Ruben in Texas.
Y'all have a good night.
Good night.
We have a fault. Get to the chopper! And the flesh wound.